right now, somewhere in your organization, there's a highly intelligent, like deeply committed person who is making a decision that will quietly derail your entire next quarter.
Yeah, and the wildest part is they're doing it entirely because they think it's what you want.
Exactly. I mean, they're looking at a problem, feeling this immense weight of urgency, and they just pick the path that makes the pressure stop.
Right, right.
So welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring this diagnostic tool that gets right underneath the hood of how teams and leaders actually function when the heat is turned up.
It's called Second Order, a decision and operations evaluation workbook by John F. Hendershot.
And let's be super clear up front, this is not, your typical collection of motivational quotes.
Oh, definitely not.
There are no chapters on how to build a better vision board here.
No, not even close. It's a really dense, rigorous, almost clinical framework. It's built specifically for leaders who carry heavy consequential responsibility. We are totally moving past all that alignment theater and corporate buzzwords to expose the raw mechanics of an organization under stress.
Because when a business hits a wall, the failure rarely starts with some massive dramatic explosion.
Exactly. It starts months earlier, just a series of tiny, entirely rational decisions that made perfect sense in the moment.
And the mission for our deep dive today is to really extract those hidden forces that quietly distort our judgment.
Right.
We want to give you, the listener, the conceptual tools to look past all that immediate noise, to spot those hidden forces, and make decisions that actually hold up over time.
Because the stakes in your daily work are incredibly high. And ignoring these dynamics, it's just unbelievably expensive.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why do highly capable, well-intentioned people routinely trap themselves in decisions that ultimately undermine their own goals?
Well, it really all comes down to the default setting of human cognition. We
Yeah.
naturally operate using first-order thinking. It's our evolutionary baseline,
Yeah.
It focuses strictly on the immediate visible outcome. The whole philosophy of first-order thinking can just be boiled down to one question. Will this solve the problem right in front of my face, right now?
Right, and in a perfectly simple, isolated system, that logic works beautifully.
Totally.
So what does this all mean? It sounds like first-order thinking is like treating a broken engine warning light by just putting a piece of tape over it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it solves the visible problem and gives you that immediate relief. But second-order thinking is asking if ignoring the engine is going to leave you stranded on the highway tomorrow.
That's a great analogy, because an organization is not a simple system. It's this highly complex, interconnected network of human behaviors, limited resources, compounding risks.
Yeah.
If you apply first-order thinking to a complex plumbing system, patching that one visible leak without understanding why it leaked.
You might just redirect the exact same water pressure to a weaker hidden joint.
Exactly. Inside your drywall, where you can't even see it. The visible problem is gone, but you've just engineered a catastrophe for next month.
Wow.
To prevent that, you need second-order thinking. And this approach introduces deliberate friction. It forces you to stop and ask, if we take this action, what happens next?
Right.
And what happens after that? It requires you to map out downstream consequences, the inevitable behavioral shifts in your team, and the trade-offs that won't even show up until 3 quarters from now.
Let's ground this in a real scenario, because the contrast is really staggering when you see it in practice.
Okay, yeah.
Let's say your leadership team notices that cross-departmental projects keep missing their deadlines. There's this perceived lack of accountability, right?
Sure.
First-order thinking looks at that and says, we need to fix this right now. Let's implement a rigorous weekly status reporting process for every project manager.
Oh, yeah. The classic management response.
Right. First-order win. Immediate relief. Everyone at the executive table feels great because, hey, a concrete action was taken. You can literally point to the new forms.
But follow that decision into the second order. What happens next? Execution across the entire company drastically slows down.
Because of the forms.
Because of the forms. Your project managers are no longer spending their Friday afternoons solving complex integration problems. They're spending 3 hours hunting down metrics to format a slide deck for a Monday morning review.
Oh, wow.
You haven't increased accountability. You've just increased administrative overhead, which actively degrades the very execution you were trying to speed up.
Or look at hiring. Say your engineering team is completely overwhelmed. They're pulling 60-hour weeks. The first-order solution is to hire fast to relieve the pressure.
Right. Get bodies in seats.
Exactly. You drop the technical requirements a bit, skip the culture interview, get those bodies in seats. First-order win, The team feels a momentary wave of relief. Help has arrived.
But the second-order consequence is brutal. 6 months later, your senior engineers are spending half their day rewriting the terrible code pushed by the rushed hires.
Yeah.
You've lowered the overall decision quality of your entire product line, and your best people are now way more likely to quit than they were before.
And the invisible hand pushing us into all these traps is pressure.
Hmm.
We really need to talk about the psychology of pressure here.
Definitely, because pressure never walks into a room, sits down, and announces itself as a dangerous bias.
Right.
It always disguises itself as a sheer, undeniable necessity. It speaks the language of pragmatism.
It sounds like we don't have the luxury of time right now. Or we just need to make a call so we can move forward.
Yes. What's fascinating here is that no one consciously chooses to narrow their options or be short-sighted. It's an autonomic response.
Under pressure, alternative choices just suddenly feel irrelevant or overly academic.
Exactly. Inaction feels wildly irresponsible. Deciding to do something, even if it's objectively a poorly thought out something, feels dramatically safer to your nervous system than pausing to evaluate the system.
Because speed produces relief.
Yes. The speed of the decision produces a psychological release.
So we are essentially treating the feeling of relief as if it were proof of clarity.
Well, that's exactly it.
The pressure drops because we made a choice, so we falsely assume the risk dropped too.
Yeah.
But we didn't eliminate the risk. We just passed it down the chain to our future selves.
That is exactly the dynamic. False certainty takes over. The organization experiences the illusion of forward motion, the leadership team experiences a calming of their anxiety, and the structural system silently absorbs the hidden damage.
Wow.
The friction of second-order thinking is designed to protect your judgment from this exact illusion. But because human beings fundamentally crave relief, we keep slapping patches on the pipe.
Making decisions that feel incredibly pragmatic in the afternoon, but slowly erode the foundation of the company over the year. This brings us to a massive contradiction, though. If pressure consistently forces us into these reactive, poor decisions, why do we constantly invite more of it into our lives?
Right, why are we always stretched to the absolute breaking point?
Yeah. The workbook reveals that the root cause here is we fundamentally confuse what we want to do with what we actually can do. We are conflating commitment with capacity.
This is a harsh reality check for any ambitious team. Organizations rarely fail to execute because the people inside them are lazy or apathetic or lacking in vision.
No.
They fail because leadership consistently, systematically overestimates structural capacity. And we need to be really precise with our definitions here. Capacity is not effort.
Yeah.
You cannot hustle your way into more capacity. Capacity is the mathematical structural ability of a system to absorb work, complex decisions, and change without breaking.
Think about a warehouse. If a warehouse has 10,000 square feet of shelving, its capacity is 10,000 square feet.
Period.
Period. It doesn't matter how passionate the forklift drivers are. It doesn't matter how inspiring the warehouse manager's morning speech is. If you send 15,000 square feet of inventory into that building, the system fails.
But in knowledge work, the inventory is invisible, right? It's decisions, meetings, context switching. And when you exceed that cognitive capacity, the system doesn't immediately explode. It compensates silently.
Yes, the silent compensation. That is arguably the most dangerous phase of an organization's decline.
When you push a physical machine past its limits, it smokes and grinds. You hear it.
You smell it.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you push a human system past its structural capacity, there are no alarms. Instead, quality just quietly degrades.
Your high performers, the precise people who used to proactively solve complex problems, start adopting a defensive posture.
They realize they are exposed, so they become cautious. They stop taking ownership of the gray areas. They retreat to just executing black and white tasks.
They survive the overload by lowering their standards.
And worst of all, everyone adjusts. That state of temporary emergency overload quietly solidifies into the new, unspoken cultural standard.
And how do leaders usually respond when they start to sense this friction? They hold an all-hands meeting and respond by reaffirming commitment.
Yes, they say things like, I know it's tough right now, team, but we just need to push through this quarter to hit our targets.
Which, tragically, just increases the cognitive load on a system that is already structurally maxed out. This creates a state of strategic overload.
Yeah.
Think of a project you enthusiastically approved last week. Did you cancel anything else to make room for it?
Probably not.
If you didn't, you just created a hidden ledger of diverted attention. You quietly forced your team to absorb a new decision load without giving them any new bandwidth.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it requires a complete reframing of how we view corporate burnout.
Okay.
The prevailing narrative is that burnout is an individual failing, right? A lack of personal discipline, poor time management, maybe an inability to set boundaries.
Yeah, that's what we usually hear.
But through the lens of second-order thinking, burnout is a structural capacity warning. It is the architectural system of your business screaming that leadership's commitment has vastly outpaced the actual bandwidth of the organization.
Wait, I have to jump in and push back here on behalf of the highly driven, ambitious listener.
Okay, let's hear it.
Isn't high commitment always a virtue? I mean, all great achievements require pushing past comfortable limits. If I have a highly committed team, shouldn't we be able to just power through that friction? Why is pure commitment without structural capacity framed as a risk disguised as a virtue?
It's a really critical pushback because it challenges the entire mythology of hustle culture.
Right.
Commitment is a virtue, absolutely, but human cognitive bandwidth is a hard biological constraint. When you commit a team to more variables than they can consciously process, they lose the mental space required for judgment. Judgment requires pause. It requires evaluating trade-offs. When you are drowning in overload, you stop evaluating trade-offs and you just start reacting to whatever is loudest in your inbox.
That makes sense.
So your team's high commitment actually becomes a massive liability. They are energetically, enthusiastically executing poor first-order decisions at high speed.
Wow.
You have a crew rowing the boat with incredible passion, but everyone is blindfolded.
That is a terrifying image.
Yeah.
You're working twice as hard, but your judgment is entirely compromised.
Oh.
Because when people are drowning in that invisible overload, they don't just stop working. The product still has to ship. The clients still have to be called.
So they find shortcuts.
They find shortcuts, and that is exactly how your organization's shadow system is born.
Oh, the shadow system. This is where you look beneath the polished surface of corporate governance. Every company has an operating model. But let's be totally clear, your operating model is not your org chart.
No.
An org chart is merely a diagram of executive intentions. The actual operating model is how the work gets done when the pressure hits.
It's the informal network of influence. It's those side conversations happening 5 minutes before the steering committee meeting.
Yes. It is the tiny handful of over-relied upon individuals who just miraculously make things happen despite the official process.
There's a brilliant distinction to be made here in the workbook between assumed accountability and assigned accountability.
This is huge.
A massive percentage of organizational failure can be traced directly back to assumed accountability.
Yeah.
Picture the end of a highly collaborative meeting. 10 people are in the room. You've mapped out a brilliant new initiative. Everyone is nodding. You say, all right, we all agree this API integration needs to happen, and everyone leaves feeling great.
That is assumed accountability. Everyone assumes that someone in the room owns the execution.
Exactly. Assigned accountability is fundamentally different. It sounds like, Sarah, you are the sole owner of this API integration. You decide how it proceeds.
Because when accountability is merely assumed, the execution inevitably stalls. The momentum dies the second people leave the room.
Yeah.
And this is exactly how decision bottlenecks form. We tend to think of bottlenecks as someone dropping the ball or a middle manager acting defensively. But really, bottlenecks form naturally when risk concentrates.
Right.
When people lack formal assigned authority or when they're afraid of the downstream impacts of making a wrong call, they do the rational thing. They push the decision up the chain. They wait for someone higher up to absorb the risk.
And when all those decisions get shoved up to the executive team, the executives get overloaded and the decisions stall there.
Exactly.
That's when default decisions take over, because doing nothing is still a choice. If you delay a hard call for 3 weeks, time decides for you.
Yeah.
Momentum decides. Or whoever complains the loudest in the Slack channel decides.
Precisely. And default decisions are almost never aligned with your long-term strategy. They just happen to be the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
This entire dynamic is littered with friction points. Friction in this context refers to processes and approvals that exist purely out of institutional habit. They increase the required effort without actually increasing the value of the output or meaningfully protecting the company from risk.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think about your formal corporate process as a beautifully paved, multi-lane highway. But management has put up 12 toll booths, 3 weigh stations, and a customs checkpoint on that highway.
Right.
The workarounds, the shadow system, are the dirt paths everyone is actually driving on through the woods because the official road is completely paralyzed by friction.
Yes.
We present the paved road to the board of directors and pretend it's our strategy. But that dirt path in the woods, that is your actual operating model.
And instead of recognizing this, leaders often try to fix the dirt path by putting up fences in the woods. They yell at the team for not following the rules. They enforce compliance. This raises an important question for you, the listener, to deeply consider. If your organization was forced to operate at half capacity tomorrow, what would quietly fail first?
Oh, wow.
Not what would cause a public crisis, but what internal processes would just slip away unnoticed. The answer to that question reveals your true shadow system.
That's fascinating.
Furthermore, those dirt paths, the workarounds, they're not failures of employee discipline. They're vital diagnostic signals. Pay attention to what your best people are working around instead of through. It tells you exactly where your formal system is broken.
So we have mapped out the pathology. We understand the false certainty of first-order thinking, the mathematical reality of maxed-out capacity, and this hidden architecture of the dirt paths. The million-dollar question is, how do we actually fix it?
Right.
And the answer is incredibly unglamorous. You do not fix an overloaded system by introducing a shiny new management framework or a complex new software tool. You fix it through the painful, disciplined art of subtraction.
Subtraction. Stabilization must always precede strategy. If your underlying system is mathematically overloaded, launching a bold new strategic vision is just adding noise to a chaotic environment.
Yeah.
Before you can pivot, before you can innovate, you must reduce the decision velocity. You have to create cognitive breathing room for your team.
To force this stabilization, you need a constraint tool, often called a priority map. But it is not a wish list. It's a ruthless filtering mechanism that only allows for 3 categories.
Right.
Category 1, what must change now? These, the active fires, the things impounding risk, destroying margins, or rapidly eroding client trust. Category 2, what can wait without damage? These are legitimate, fantastic ideas that simply do not have the structural capacity to be executed right now. They are parked.
And then there's category 3.
The absolute hardest one, what must stop, even if it feels risky.
The psychology of the leader is tested most severely right here. When faced with this map, almost every executive will try to invent a 4th category.
Oh, of course.
They'll call it what we'll do more efficiently. They will say, we don't need to stop Project X. We just need the team to be 20% more efficient at it.
Right.
This is an avoidance tactic. It is a psychological defense mechanism to avoid the pain of loss. You cannot efficiency your way out of a foundational capacity crisis. You have to explicitly choose what loses.
But let's be honest about the reality of the boardroom here.
Yeah.
Stopping an initiative that is already in motion is terrifying.
Oh, absolutely.
It has budget attached. It has a project manager whose ego is tied to it. It has political capital wrapped up in it. Doesn't standing up and stopping a project make you look indecisive? Doesn't it signal failure to your team and to your competitors?
That specific fear, the fear of appearing weak or inconsistent, is exactly why leaders invent that efficiency illusion. Stopping something creates immediate operational relief, but it triggers massive social and political friction.
Yeah, people get mad.
They do. And keep in mind, the things that need to stop are rarely low-value, obvious busy work that no one cares about. They are often the most familiar, comfortable routines of the organization or the pet projects of senior leaders.
Wow.
But stopping is not a failure. It is the purest expression of leadership discipline. A real priority map introduces loss on purpose. Because priority is not what you write on a whiteboard. Priority is what receives your absolute protection when the pressure rises.
That's a great way to put it.
If you are not willing to name the trade-off, accept the discomfort, and kill a good idea to save a great one, you aren't prioritizing. You're just writing a wish list and hoping the system miraculously stretches to accommodate it.
A real priority map introduces loss on purpose. That is a heavy, necessary truth. It requires the leader to protect the organization's judgment by sacrificing their own narrative that they can do it all.
Precisely. You have to willingly surrender the illusion of infinite capacity in order to save the reality of your core mission.
As we bring the insights from this deep dive directly into your daily work, the big takeaway is that second-order thinking is not about possessing a crystal ball.
No, not all.
It's not an algorithm for predicting the future perfectly so you never make a mistake. It is fundamentally about responsibility.
It is the responsibility to slow down just long enough to see what the invisible force of pressure is quietly removing from your options.
Yeah.
It's about having the courage to look at the dirt pads in your organization without judgment and aligning the reality of what you are actually doing with the strategy of what you claim matters.
We started today talking about the comfort of patching the leaky pipe. We all want the clean, visible fix. We want the immediate relief of action.
Sure, feels good.
But applying Band-Aids to a pressurized system is a recipe for a structural collapse. Taking the time to trace the pipes, acknowledging the underlying math of your team's capacity, and actually turning off the water to fix the whole system, even when people are yelling that they're thirsty, that is what real, enduring judgment looks like.
Which brings us to one final lingering concept to leave you with. When faced with these complex challenges, we obsessively weigh the risks of taking action. Will this new hire work out? Will this new process fail?
Right.
But the most critical question to ask yourself when evaluating a complex system is, what happens if we do nothing?
Because inaction is not neutral. It is the ultimate default decision. If you default to the status quo today, simply to avoid the political friction of making a hard choice and stopping a comfortable project, what deferred, compounded cost are you quietly forcing your future self and your future team to pay?
The cost of inaction is rarely dramatic on a Tuesday afternoon, but it's cumulative. It builds silently in the shadows, and it is always, inevitably, paid in full.
A massive thank you to everyone for joining us on this deep dive. Take that question with you today, look closely at your own priority map and see what you need to subtract, and we will see you next time.